What's going on, guys? Welcome to Hominoid Identification 101 with Crypto Reality. Today we're going to be going over several different images and a bunch of different video clips. And we're going to be talking about and showing you, educating you on what we've learned about hominoids, right? Everybody keeps reporting Bigfoot and Sasquatch and having conversations about Bigfoot and Sasquatch and talking about it in using terms that are essentially colloquialisms. We're dealing with species as in plural, of hominoids and hominin that are worldwide in their dispersion. What we've uncovered is that there's a class of these hominoids that is literally colorless. And we've coined those particular individuals that we found here in South Florida and in several different places up the eastern seaboard, achromatons, or those who lack coloration, or the colorless men, the colorless man. There definitely are other types of colorations within the different species of hominoids, but this particular one, the colorless one, is the type that I saw in my encounter in 2012. And so I became aware that these albino is what I was calling it at the time. These albino or white Sasquatch is what I thought it was. But the reality is that's a misnomer. White is actually the absence of color and therefore colorless. What human beings are unaware of, largely, is that these white creatures, as seen here, you can see his knuckles holding something like a branch or possibly a small sapling. It appears to have its hand up in front of its face holding something, but it's changing colors in diffused forest canopy light. What is that? The sun is coming down, passing through and striking leaves, creating a glow off of the plants that the creature's colorless skin then receives and retransmits as false color, basically. I mean, it's actually frequency, but it's frequency that's, so to speak, jamming your human vision. We don't see the colors and that light that refracts off the creature's face all that well, and it's distorting the symmetry of what's actually there watching us. We also have learned through our studies that these creatures can self-regulate in their body temperatures, where we see creatures sometimes that appear to have a really bright heat signature. We also see larger creatures that defy identification through the typical thermal signatures. We find this species all over the eastern seaboard. Examining satellite photos that were sent to me from Scott Hundley, I was able to ascertain that there was some viable habitat in the areas surrounding his home in southeast Maine. I flew up to Maine, and Scott and I examined, we actually traveled out to the areas that I examined on satellite that met the ideal habitat specifications. And within 12 hours of being in this location, Scott Hundley had a Class A sighting. One of these creatures, whether it was this one that I actually photographed within minutes of Scott seeing it, it walked out of the tree line right in front of Scott Hundley in the exact area that we examined on satellite, based on our theories developed here in South Florida for what ideal habitat for the creatures actually is. And it has a lot to do with lower light levels. You see, we can identify that these creatures, and you can even see like there's a ball inside this eye here. It appears to be, even in the shade, reflecting light, which is an indication of superior night vision. I believed from the beginning, based on the bone structures that we were seeing that were larger and that had a tendency to provide natural shading of the eyes, that the creatures would seek low light situations, period. In fact, that is exactly what we found. Everywhere we've been and been able to identify the proper types of habitat, whether it would be canopies here in South Florida or hollows in the mountains in Maine or ravines, whatever it was that provided the water source to begin the lush plant growth that the creatures seek. The achromatons, this one here appears to have gray skin, but if he steps out in the sunlight, it will start to glow. It'll appear white. If you look on this side, you can see part of the forehead has a glare on it. There are other frames of these creatures in which they glow or shine like chrome as they're standing there. This is actually a younger type of creature here, but it's located here in South Florida. These creatures were in Maine, and again, this was photographed within minutes of Scott Hundley's encounter, and this is the actual spot that the creature walked into the tree line. I used my zoom lens from about 60 yards away, went through a hole in the canopy, right through this split into branches, and grabbed him. As we move through the frames, we're essentially seeing these hominoids as they try to observe my wife and I. We have begun to interact with the hominoids in these locations to the extent that we're chattering at them, and occasionally they're chattering back. They're coming forward and they're curious about, apparently, that we're trying to communicate with them. And we're able to catch them on film during these periods of curiosity where they come out to check who is it that's chattering on here, right? And so we're catching the creatures on film when they do this. We have researchers that travel all over the country and that live in other states, and they send us footage all the time. This particular footage was shot by Captain Brian Rogers, who lives here in Florida, but frequently visits upstate New York, and in an area outside of, directly behind actually, his place of employment is a wooded section that connects to an enormous chunk of forest in upstate New York. As it turns out, the fringes of human development have creatures hanging out. You can see comparisons here of the exact same species of hominoid in upstate New York and in South Florida. This was taken in the John C. Mariana Jones Hungry Land Wildlife Management Area. And we've been researching out there, and I have several different research films to cover that particular area that we'll be going over here in the near future. But you can see these appear to be the same types of hominoids. The bone structures are uniquely similar, right? And so we've got the brow ridge in the eye area, and then the furled up nose. You can even see the nostrils. And then we've got the brow ridge, very similar, and the eye area, very similar. You can really see a little bit of an eye poking out of that one. We've got this nose that's furled up, and we can see the same exact shape. This is this creature watching Captain Brian, and this creature watching me here in South Florida. There are different types of hominoids. Some of them appear to be more non-human primate. They're exceptional climbers. This particular creature is about 30 feet off the ground. You can literally see the edge of its head right here. This is the brow and the eye area, and it just looks like a big monkey, man, up in a tree. Its shoulder comes across, here's the arm, and it's bracing itself. It's about 30 feet off the ground watching my wife. That's here in Jonathan Dickinson State Park in Hobe Sound, Florida. Here we have a mislabeled, actually, here. This is actually Arkansas. I did an investigation with Carrie for Crypto Odyssey and shot footage there. I had 2 different encounters, and both of them I was able to record. This is from the first encounter, in which Carrie and the homeowner were literally standing with me, and I was seeing something, and I filmed, and then we moved off. Upon reviewing the film, it turned out that the creature scurried up the tree 3 to 4 feet off the ground as we approached, and then we caught it. But you can see it appears to be a completely different type. It almost looks like a little troll. Whereas some of the larger creatures, and we have both witnessed and encountered and seen these enormous creatures, and we have seen creatures that appear to be more human in their representation. From 168, this was literally in the tree line watching us from about 150 yards away or so on the second morning that I was there. We captured this creature out there. We had insane audio and all kinds of chatter from this exact section of trees the night before. So the audio was recorded where this creature was captured the following morning. The larger creatures that we've documented are very difficult to identify because their bone structures are extremely different. And what we're seeing are exaggerations of what people have described. This is one particular individual that I've seen, and then this is another individual that I've seen. Now, what we're seeing is the absence of what the nose actually looked like, because when I saw the creature, the bright sunlight was only showing or allowing me to see the tops of what was going on. So these shinier spots here were actually chrome. When I was witnessing this creature, it appeared I couldn't see everything because it was so bright, and their skin is colorless, or bright white is the way most people say it. So it literally looked like chrome. And this is kind of what I saw. I'm sure the nose was enormous, but like I said, it was only picking up. And this is actually the way the creature kind of looked. But we see these exaggerated bone structures in a lot of the creatures that we photograph and that we encounter. These exaggerated bone structures, here we have one that looks like a chimp type, and there appears to be a smaller one right next to him, but you can see it's got that kind of chimpanzee look to it. And you can see this is the mouth area, and it's just picking up a little light off the ball of the nose. We're not getting the rest of it. That's that effect that the retransmission has. This particular individual is enormous. You can see these very thick lips right here, and in the eyes in this area. This is a huge creature. Its nose is only being revealed through the aberration partially, because there's either a leaf or a stick or something right in front of it right here. And then it's in diffusion, but we get half of this enormous hominoid's face. This particular creature is between 12 and 14 feet tall, and we have photographed him recently. We also have individuals that display coloration on their faces, that naturally display a red tone. Red tone, we call this individual red, and we've seen him and captured him on film several different times. And as he moves through the tree line, every time we see him, there's a red blur coming in there. And he appears to be rather indigenous, like native. He is it a Tequesta Indian that hangs out with these creatures that's been hybridized in his lineage? We don't know. This is where the Tequesta Indians hailed, and these are the types of the creatures that we're seeing. We're not sure. This particular hominoid was captured almost 60 feet off the ground up in a tree. You can see it's looking at me, and then it's looking at my wife one frame later. Just flips its head around almost 30 degrees and is looking in the opposite direction, but it's at least 60 feet off the ground. In the same tree line, we photographed this individual. We photograph young hominoids all the time. In fact, a lot of the creatures that in the beginning we were photographing were the young ones, because we didn't realize that they got so big. But you can see there's one peeking out from behind this side of the tree, and then there's another one right here. And let me try to brighten this up a little bit. There you go. But these guys are all different sizes. We have captured on film the bell curve. We have them small all the way to enormous. And as far as the types go, we're recognizing that there are several different bone structures at work here. Here you can see one of these creatures, and you can see this is where the eyes are of the creature here. You can see one of the eyes is right there. But it appears to be like almost as if it appears like the Grinch. If you picture the Grinch, you can see there's a Grinch here. This is going to be the mouth line right here. Comes all the way across. This little glow right here is on the top of the lip. Comes all the way across. The nose is right here. And we've got the eyes. This creature was embedded underneath a cypress tree. And I was walking in. I was literally shooting in 3D for the first time with one of my 3D cameras. And it uncurled itself. It was hiding wrapped around the base of a cypress tree. This hole here is where it was hiding, and it turned around and started to come up off the ground as I was turning to run. I still had my camera pointed behind me, and this is what I captured. The sound was extremely startling. There was no sound at all, and then suddenly there was a bunch of movement within 18 feet of me or so. And this is what I captured coming up out of this hole under there. So that was a startling encounter captured on film. This particular shot is the individual we're calling the Martin County Orc. And this particular Sasquatch resembles something out of a Peter Jackson film. We've got the eye area here, and you can literally see where it's showing that colorless eye there, nocturnal. The nose is curled up. You can see each nostril. So the forehead is changing colors in the diffusion. It's got several different colors on its face. This is a great shot of one of them. He's on the ground, and literally I called this out. I was with Jimmy Barr and Mike Velez, and we were in Hungryland, and I've caught individuals observing us from this area before, and I was like, I have to try to check this spot real quick, and I zoomed in, and there he was. I literally said there's a Bigfoot watching us, and the three of us sat there and filmed this creature. I look at what approaches us in the forest and the difference between some of these individuals, and you can see this is the eye of the individual here. We have this trollish kind of bone structure at work here. We got huge nostrils just flared up, and then this immense jawline here. We have a huge creature. This particular creature is enormous. I've literally seen this thing with my own two eyes, and this is one of the residents of Jonathan Dickinson State Park.